Joe, evening. Good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Pablo, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Johnny, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Manny, good to see you. So how you doing? Evening. Morning, Miles. The CMF. Shelly, good to see you. So how you doing? Morning. Evening, Miles. How's things? Autistic, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Things are good. Good day, Miles. Mike, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Johnny, Miles, what's the market conditions? When can we see prices soar? When can we see prices go up? Regulations is pretty much when we can see the market starts swinging on the upside. We still don't have regulations inside the market space, which is the biggest factor that's holding the entire market space back. And the main reason why crypto assets are more like risk on assets than risk off assets, it's because we don't have regulations and we have too many institutions in the market space. Now, too many institutions inside the market space is actually not a bad thing if we have regulations, because it's less volatile and less manipulated, although manipulation will still be there, but not at that stage when we have regulations in place. But there are good things happening in terms of regulations, because the news that we're going to essentially be covering on tonight's live, there's a lot of things happening with the SEC and moving faster than ever before, which we're going to go through on tonight's live. Are we freezing today? I don't think so, because I think everything's fixed in terms of what was happening yesterday. Good evening, all. Good to see you all. JP, how you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles of CMF. Callie, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? Blessings. Mac, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles of CMF. Dennis, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles of CMF. Suze, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? How you been, Suze? Okay. Let's talk about, essentially, let's do the intro before we talk about anything. Welcome to the CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever. The CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family, and my name is Miles. I'm the host of this live that you're tuning in right now too. And this live essentially airs Monday to Friday, where I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have essentially questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So, welcome to CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever, and if you're regular, let's go CMF. We're on episode 274 right now, which is absolutely incredible. Just want to say thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has liked this live on X. I'm getting notifications. Thanks so much to everyone who's liked this live on X, who's put a comment on X, essentially hashtagging XRP on me as well, liking each other's comments on X as well, retweeting this live. And also thank you so much to everyone on YouTube who's liked this live and also put a comment outside the live as well on YouTube. So, Dennis, thank you so much for essentially putting a comment down. Pierce, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Morning. Joe, thank you so much as well. So when can we expect essentially regulations? When can we expect regulation? Good question. Q2 to Q3 is when we should be expecting regulations. More is what I would say. Evening, brother Miles of CMF. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles of CMF. Hope everyone is well. Let's go, Solomon. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? But in terms also in regulations, what we're going to be talking about tonight's live, the SEC is actually working with the White House for the first time ever. Under Gary Gensler, the previous administration, they never worked with anyone, and it was only Gary Gensler's word that mattered. But right now, the SEC not only dropping cases one by one, but they've also started to work with the White House, which is incredible, because they're getting input from both sides, the crypto sector and now the Trump administration, to become more positive for the crypto space, to move things along faster than ever before. So what happens after regulations? We see a huge spike, or will it take a while before any action? it wouldn't be essentially an instant takeoff and never essentially stopping after regulations, but regulations will be an indication essentially for the banks or the institutions as a green light. Now you can get involved inside the crypto space. It means it's a green light for Bank of America, for example. Their CEO said at the World Economic Forum, they're ready, all banks are ready to start using crypto assets, but they can't because there's no regulations and too many gray areas. So an indication of regulation is a green light for these banks to start slowly utilizing it, or these institutions to slowly utilizing it. But also an indication that ETFs will be flying with green colors, first of all. Also, some other factors will be in play as well, but it will be, the market will react in a positive way without a doubt, and then it will be a slow progress and then a sudden takeoff. Even Miles and family, Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Because it'll be like a domino effect. It'll be one institution starts embracing digital assets within their firm for their clients, and another one will start doing another one. It'll just be a domino effect of banks and institutions getting more involved. And the more that happens inside the United States, the rest of the countries around the world who have been waiting to utilize crypto assets for their purposes, for example, Japan, could start essentially utilizing XRP because now America has given a green light to essentially rules and regulations. America's green light for rules and regulations is the green light that the world needs, essentially, to move forward with utility. Now, one by one, obviously, countries will introduce their own regulations as well, but under the G20 countries, there will be the same set of regulations in place. And most countries have regulations, but they don't conduct any sort of transactions, purposes with any other country out there. They've done test payments, for example. Dubai has done essentially test payments with Singapore, for example, or Hong Kong. That's happened, but not in the sense of actual use or actual use case for utility. Just tests so far. If we have regulations, we move away from test and beta testing transactions internationally to actually doing them. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Comatose, hi Miles of CMF. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? So that's what's going to happen regarding regulations. It wouldn't be an instant, but the market will react in a positive way, and then it'll be a gradual and then an instant. Now, Trump. Yesterday, everybody saw what Trump's speech was about. If you didn't, go and check it out. Not right now, after this live, go and check it out, Trump's speech. In my point of view, Trump's speech was incredible. He pointed out everything that's wrong with the other party, the Democratic government, the Democratic essentially politicians. He pointed out everything that's wrong with them. He pointed out essentially corruption inside essentially in Congress, and essentially in terms of the IRS, in terms of any government department that's been overusing essentially taxpayers' money and funding unnecessary things. He revealed so much corruption that it was unreal. And then he mentioned some notable figures as well that were impacted by the essentially Biden administrations opening their borders and so on. So Trump didn't mention crypto as most people wanted them to mention crypto. And some people are suggesting maybe crypto isn't that important for Trump. That's why he didn't mention crypto in his big speech yesterday. That's not true. Crypto is actually very important to Trump because he's doing the first ever White House crypto summit on the 7th of this month, that's the only reason he didn't mention crypto in his big Congress speech, because he's going to be mentioning crypto in the White House, the first ever crypto summit. Miles, it's a pity that XRP is still in the court case. So any bullish news is not going to affect the price and adoption till May. May is just the rumor that people are giving out that essentially that's when the case is going to be coming to an end. Jeremy Hogan is the one that's giving the speculation that May is the deadline for the case to be ending. But just speculation. It can end a lot more sooner. I'll give you an example, Funky Brother. I said, for example, that Mark, the acting chairman of the SEC, just to give you an example of who's been more right and who's been more of a speculation, for example. Jeremy Hogan, incredibly intelligent man, no doubt about it. He has said, for example, in the past, or people like Jeremy Hogan, they've said in the past that the SEC needs essentially Scott Atkins to come in and become an actual chairman of the SEC before they can close any sort of cases. And I said, no, the acting chairman, Mark, can and does have the capabilities to close cases. Guess who was right? Me. The SEC has closed so far 6 essentially cases that were all related to the blockchain space. So the acting chairman, Mark, can get a lot of things done. Some people are speculating, or Jeremy Hogan is also jumping on that bandwagon. They're speculating essentially May is going to be it, because that's when essentially Paul Atkins should be coming, or Scott Atkins should be coming in, essentially. But that's not the case, because Mark, the acting chairman, can dismiss this case, even though it's a little bit complex. The Ripple case is a little bit more complex than essentially the other cases the SEC had going on. But what I'm trying to say is that people are speculating it's May, and I'm saying it can happen sooner. I was also the person that said Mark, the acting chairman of the SEC, can close cases, and people said no, he can't. Guess who was right? Me. So essentially, May is just a speculation. It could also be sooner, especially now that essentially the SEC and the White House are working together for the first time ever, or the SEC and CFTC are working together after a decade. Why didn't Trump talk about crypto? The reason why Trump didn't talk about crypto is because he had more important issues to talk about, as in what is wrong with the United States and what needs to be fixed. And a lot of people were fixated that he didn't talk about crypto. But here's the thing. The 7th of this month is the first ever crypto summit in the White House. That is beyond, essentially bullish. The first ever crypto White House essentially summit happening on the 7th essentially of this month, 7th of March. This month it's happening. So if he didn't talk about crypto in the big Congress meeting he had essentially yesterday, that's perfectly fine. Because essentially in 2 days he's going to be talking only about cryptocurrencies in the White House with crypto executives and the SEC and the CFTC and other essentially chair members from essentially other government bodies. So that's perfectly fine if he didn't talk about it now, because there are a lot more things to address that's wrong with the United States that needs to be fixed. And in Trump's words, it's just a start. President Trump did a fantastic job last night. One of the best speeches I've ever heard. I agree, 100%. Trump's speech was incredible, absolutely incredible. Some people might disagree with it, some people might agree with it. But neither party can deny that that man was speaking absolute and pure facts. Trump was speaking pure facts. The reason why some people don't want to accept Trump is because for some oddly reason, the media is telling them to hate Trump. And Trump made the correct speech last night, essentially. He said, if he is the man to essentially, if Trump is the man to solve world hunger, cure the world of every type of disease, the Democratic Party will still hate him. And that's true. So the reason why a lot of people hate on Trump is because you're getting brainwashed by the media. This man has achieved so much positivity for the United States that some people just don't want to admit to that they were wrong. It's difficult for some people to admit that they were wrong in life. I've been there, trust me. Trump is an excellent leader. He made an incredible speech last night, absolutely incredible speech that Trump made. And everything he said was pure facts. And the Democratic Party, the Democratic politicians, they never stood up once for anything positive for the United States. But do you know when they did stand up? When they talked about Ukraine. The American politicians stood up and clapped for Ukraine, but not to do anything with the United States. That should speak volumes. Because they are American politicians that are supposed to be in favor of the American citizens, not the Ukrainian citizens. So that should speak volumes. That people that essentially are elected, the people that are essentially elected to better the lives of American citizens couldn't give an S about American citizens. They couldn't stand up once to clap for anything positive. Tax breaks essentially on everyone. They couldn't clap for that. All the people that were affected by Biden's open borders, they couldn't clap for that essentially. Nothing. Just Ukraine, everybody stood up from the Democratic side. So Democratic politicians should be ashamed of themselves. Genuinely should be ashamed of themselves. And yet, Pocahontas as well. Elizabeth Warren, what an absolute clown. Senator Elizabeth Warren goes on about how Elon Musk is a billionaire and billionaires are bad people. Billionaires are the one that are funding Senator Elizabeth Warren. Do you know what I don't get about Democrats? Just one thing. When billionaires back Democratic politicians, that's okay, apparently. But when billionaires back Donald Trump, that's bad. The logic of some people is just crazy. If a mega pharmaceutical billionaire backs Senator Elizabeth Warren, that's okay. If the same billionaire backs Trump, that's bad. How does that one work out? It's just crazy, the mindset that people have. The level of brainwashing is beyond fixable at this moment in time. He's the best president that the United States of America has pretty much ever had. And some people can't admit to it. Because their favorite news channel is ABC or CNBC or NBCN or The View. I'll be honest, CNN, NBC, ABC, or The View, they pretty much share, they genuinely share the exact same brain cell. The exact same brain cell. Because the speech that Trump made was facts. And he came out with a list of the corruption that's happening inside the United States. A list. He came out with receipts of the corruptions inside the United States. He said they're spending $20 million on Sesame Street cartoons in the Middle East of taxpayers' money. And the Democrats were saying, it's a lie. The man has receipts. You're going against facts? So it's crazy, the level of brainwashing that is done on the American people by the Democratic Party. The man brought out receipts, read out the receipts, and people said, the Democratic Party said, no, it's lying. It's false. He's lying. No, he isn't. So it's crazy. The level of brainwashing is just beyond fixable at this point. I'll be very honest. Beyond fixable. And the funniest part will be if the Democratic Party revealed the exact same facts. If the Democratic Party, let's just pretend Kamala Harris won. Let's just pretend. If Kamala Harris won, she read out the same corruption list, the Democrats will go, I knew it. I knew there was corruption happening in this country. I couldn't believe it, but I knew it. But Trump is essentially reading this list out. Nobody wants to believe it from the Democratic side. Beyond ridiculous. Absolutely beyond the ridicule. I've never seen more of a group of hating, essentially, American citizens than the Democratic Party. Honestly, I thought there were illicit groups around the world that hated the American government or the American people. But in my point of view, the Democratic Party hates American citizens and America more than some illicit groups outside the country. It's ridiculous how much the Democratic Party hates American citizens and hates the American people, or essentially hates the American government. Honestly, I thought illicit groups outside of the United States were against the US so much. Turns out, Democratic Party are a lot more essentially showing hatred towards the American citizens than ever before. So, honestly, it just baffles me. And even today, Senator Elizabeth Warren, we're going to talk about it later on, she came out and said Elon Musk, essentially, Donald Trump and the Doge department are helping billionaires become more wealthy. Someone explain, how did Elizabeth Warren, with a media school, essentially, wage, have a $20 million portfolio? It's just funny to me, you know, someone with a $200,000 wage has $20 million portfolio on paper. Who knows how much more she has off paper or off the books, you would say. It's just crazy. Because the Democrats are like pointing out things that's wrong with themselves. Genuinely. But yeah, it was the funniest thing I ever saw. So in my point of view, incredible speech from Trump, pointing out everything that's wrong and everything that needs to be fixed. Incredible speech. If anybody goes against what the speech that Trump did, you're on the wrong side of this. You just don't want to admit to it, or you're really brainwashed and you can't realize it. Let that one sink in. Now, let's see what else is going on. I read that BTC Evening, Miles. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Miles, will XRP... Oh, sorry, I was here, actually. Why did... Miles, will 5,000 XRP be life-changing? Millionaires. Yes, 5,000 XRP is an incredible amount to have in your portfolio. 100%. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles. Mickey, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I read that BTC will be used differently for the reserve than the other coins. Your thoughts? Interesting. BTC will be used differently in other reserves in terms of... Shelly, share the article with me after the live. Let me look at it so I can give a better perspective on it. But yeah, share me the article after the live. Lol, he is the worst leader imaginable. I mean, nothing. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions don't count and facts are facts. This, yeah, Pocahontas, genuinely Pocahontas. Donald Doze. I'm so disgusted with the Democratic Party. They didn't stand up for the killing of the children, nor did they stand up for the child who survived brain cancer. I'm done with the dumb Democrats. They are evil. I agree. Democrats are more concerned about transgenders than the theft going on by the government. I agree. Oh, and let's not forget abortion. Democrats are the party of death and destruction. I agree. All facts, Stormy. And what up, Miles and CMF? Hope all is well. Yeah, the Democrats dug their own grave over the years. Facts. Absolutely facts. Now, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, Donald Trump, Mexico, and Canada is what we're going to talk about now. Bitcoin crosses $90,000 as Trump delays Canada, essentially, and Mexico auto tariffs. So there's a lot of tariffs being put in place by Donald Trump. A lot of people disagree, and some people, essentially, a lot of people disagree, and a lot of people agree with it. In my point of view, it's always been a positive thing regarding tariffs. Just some people can't see the bigger picture. The US government confirmed to delay tariffs on auto parts coming from Canada and Mexico by 1 month, just 1 day after essentially enacting them. Germany's plan to essentially ease debt limits for essential infrastructure spending, and China hiking its target deficit also contributed to the rebounding of the essential risk markets. Bitcoin essentially climbed just above $90,000 on the news and up essentially 3.7% over the past 24 hours. Almost all assets on the bull market CoinDesk, essentially 20 index advanced, with Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, and other cryptocurrencies bringing in a great amount essentially in terms of percentage of upwards. The tech-focused Nasdaq and the bull essentially market S&P 500 also essentially up 1.2% and 1.5% respectively. And in the afternoon hours of the session, crypto-related stocks also climbed higher from earlier week lows. Crypto exchange, for example, Coinbase Coin, the ticker, was up 3.5%, while the largest corporate, essentially Bitcoin holder Strategy, gained nearly 10%. Trade tensions and geopolitical risk have taken center stage lately, weighing in on essentially on investor sentiments and pressuring risk assets like US stocks and digital assets lower. Similar risk-off episodes have usually led investors to flee essentially the US dollar, translating to downside pressure on crypto assets, said Joe, market strategist essentially at LMAX Group. However, this time the US dollar index DXY essentially catered to the weakest essentially level since early November and is down more than 5% lower from its third mid-January peak. With the Fed rate expectations shifting back to pricing more rate cuts than less in 2025, and with essentially Bitcoin and crypto assets capable of shining as a store of value assets, we believe essentially there are plenty of reasons to essentially expect Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies to be well supported on the dips. Crypto analytics, essentially analytics firm Swissblocks noted that despite the wild price essentially swings over the past few days, the firm's Bitcoin fundamental essentially index, which measures the overall health of the network and held up essentially relatively well, they went on to say, Bitcoin's fundamentals are on the verge of shifting into a bullish movement, with sustained improvements in liquidity and network growth, said Swissblocks. The analyst essentially noted that the strengths suggest that Bitcoin is unlikely to be driven into any sort of a bear market. Well, it shouldn't be, I'll be very honest, because Wall Street essentially is beyond excited to get involved inside the crypto space. They've mentioned it multiple times, and the last time they mentioned was last week. Morgan Stanley getting involved essentially inside the market space and preparing to introduce more crypto assets to their retail clients and to their institutional clients, or Citibank trying to create their own trading firm like Binance essentially or Coinbase, which is extremely bullish, or even Bank of America's executives getting ready to help blockchain companies go public. So there shouldn't be any sort of bearish scenarios. And the only reason the market dips here and there is because of tariffs. But tariffs need to happen. Tariffs need to happen for the United States of America to take control back, because they were losing a lot of control to China, a lot. That's not a good thing. Some people might think that's a good thing when the US dollar gets devalued or the US dollar goes to zero, so on. That's never a good thing. It's a negative for everybody else inside the West. And if you live in the West, that's a massive negative for you. But in general, every time we have dips, it doesn't mean we're going to go to a drastic bear market and close up shop. It just means it's a dip based on a tariff news that lasts what? The effects of tariffs last inside the market space, minimum 24 hours, maximum 48 hours. And then the market moves on to a different type of news, positive or negative. Now, positiveness, CFTC and the SEC. They're in talks right now over digital assets, and the report has came out. So here is the report from the SEC and the CFTC working together. By the way, the SEC and the CFTC are working together after a decade. And the only reason that the SEC and CFTC are working together is to essentially accelerate the blockchain space in the United States in terms of dropping cases and bringing out regulations. They're working together after a decade. The CFTC previous chairman, Rostam Benham, and previous chairman, SEC chairman, Gary Gensler didn't want to work with the CFTC. The CFTC wanted to work with the SEC. So there's a clash going on. But now with the Trump administration, there's no clash. The SEC and CFTC want to work together now to bring some sort of acceleration, innovation in terms of the blockchain space. So staff at the Commodities Futures Trading Commission are engaging with their counterparts at the United States Securities Exchange Commission regarding digital assets. This is according to the CFTC's acting chairman, Caroline Pham, who essentially revealed that the CFTC SEC staff are in talks on further essentially interagency collaborations around matters of digital assets and related topics. This is extremely bullish. Fox Business reporter, essentially Eleanor, shared this essentially Pham's comments on the ongoing discussions on X. While the CFTC and the SEC have worked together before, Pham believes the two regulatory watchdogs can take this to the next level. They definitely can, because the last time they worked together was a decade ago. We have worked together well in the past, and I look forward to getting back to regular old stages. The staff level conversation is happening at essentially Michelin Institution Futures of Fintechs in Washington, D.C. The SEC Commissioner, Hester Peirce, who is leading the agency's recently formed crypto task force that was essentially created overnight after Gary Gensler left, Hester Peirce's pro-crypto stance saw her emerge as one of the voices that consistently discard with the regulation by enforcement approach that Gary Gensler was trying to do, and that impacted crypto innovation and growth inside the United States under the former previous chairman. In her comments regarding the CFTC and the SEC staff talks, she noted that the important essentially role of public participation plays in the rulemaking. Also key is the president, essentially President Donald Trump's crypto working essentially group, hinting the ground running in terms of efforts to bring clarity to the regulatory landscape of cryptocurrencies. There have been suggestions of a joint CFTC-SEC oversight of crypto before, but Gary Gensler rejected in the past, but he's no longer the chairman. And the new SEC and the new SEC and the new CFTC and the new Trump administration want to make this happen. It is important to know what is an SEC remedy and what it's not. The crypto working group has started to identify what falls within essentially the SEC's jurisdiction and what does not, which is crucial. It's essential essentially to involve the public in rulemaking discussions, and those affected by the rules should have the right to participate in the rulemaking, something Gary Gensler didn't do. Trump essentially appointed Caroline Pham as the CFTC acting chairman and Commissioner Mark as the SEC acting chairman in January, and named Hester Peirce the chair of the crypto task force shortly after. The two agency staff level engagement comes just days after essentially Trump's remarks on crypto street reserves. For the US White House is also set to host its first ever, coming up on the 7th of March, crypto summit in the White House. That's the main reason why Trump didn't mention anything to do with cryptocurrencies in his big speech in Congress, because in 2 days, we're going to have the first ever crypto summit in the White House. So it's going to be all crypto related. But the Congress one last night, it was things that he just needed to get off his chest and needed to be said. Also, on the topic of the SEC, for the first time ever, the SEC and the White House are uniting for a groundbreaking regulatory framework for crypto assets. So this is what's happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about, because most people don't know about it. But this is what's happening behind the scenes. So while most people think we're going to go to some massive downtrend and we're going to go into a bear market and close up shop inside the crypto space, this is what's actually happening behind the scenes. The SEC working with the CFTC after a decade. The SEC working with the White House to do some groundbreaking regulatory frameworks for the crypto asset space. In a significant development for the digital asset space, top officials at the SEC are signaling a proactive approach towards establishing crypto clarity. Commissioners Caroline Palm and Hester Pierce have publicly lauded the essentially growing collaborations between them and the SEC and the White House, hinting at a potential more harmonized and effective era essentially of cryptocurrency regulations with the help of the White House. For years, the crypto industry has navigated a murky landscape of regulatory uncertainty. This lack of crypto clarity has stifled innovation inside the United States and left many projects in the state of limbo. Imagine trying to build a house without knowing the building codes. That's been the reality for many crypto, essentially entrepreneurs or crypto businesses inside the United States, or the world, you could even say. Essentially, the clearer the rules of the game are essential for fostering responsible growth and protecting consumers. And here is why essentially clarity just needs to happen. Encourages innovation. When you have clarity, when you have rules and regulation, it encourages innovation. When businesses understand the regulatory boundaries, they can essentially innovate with confidence, knowing that they are operating within legal parameters and no more gray areas. Attract investment. Institutional essentially investors and traditional essentially financial players are more likely to enter the crypto markets when there is a clear and predictable regulatory framework. Essentially protects consumers. Clear regulations help safeguard investors and users from scams and essentially fraudulent activities, and building trust inside the digital asset ecosystem. Reduce legal essentially suings. Clarity minimizes legal risk and disputes, allowing companies to focus on building and growing their businesses rather than constantly going back and forward in court battles. And Commissioner essentially Hester Pierce, often dubbed the crypto mum for her generally essentially pro-crypto stance, emphasized the critical need for the SEC to clearly define its role in the crypto regulation space. And according to essentially other reports, or Eleanor as well from Fox Business, stressed the importance of engaging with the public. And Commissioner essentially Caroline Palm echoed these sentiments, with the White House coming with the SEC and everybody coming together for one main purpose: crypto regulations. The statements from Commissioners Palm and Pierce, highlighting the collaborative efforts between the SEC, the CFTC, and the White House, offer a beacon of hope for the cryptocurrency industry. The pursuit of crypto clarity is not just about establishing rules. It's about creating a foundation, as what I've said. If anybody remembers, the past few days, I've been saying the SEC needs to lay the foundation for the crypto space to be able to thrive on inside the United States. I said, unfortunately, the previous administration and Gary Gensler did absolutely nothing. So when the new SEC came on board, they had to do everything from the ground up. And what the SEC is doing now is laying in the foundation while one by one dropping cases. And this is what essentially they're talking about. The SEC and CFTC, they're talking about, and the White House, that essentially the pursuit of clarity is not just about establishing rules. It's about creating a foundation for sustainable growth and innovation. and trust in digital asset ecosystems. By embracing public engagements and fostering essentially agency corporations, the path towards a robust and sensible regulatory essentially framework for digital assets appears to be gaining momentum. And this is a pivotal moment that could shape the future of crypto for years to come. Essentially, an active participation from all stakeholders is crucial to ensure that the outcome is both effective and beneficial for the entire industry. I agree 100%. So, again, a lot of people are still presuming we're going to go into some drastic bear market and close up shop. While the SEC, the CFTC, and the White House are working together to lay the foundation for the blockchain space. Or even yesterday regarding Trump's speech and how he didn't mention crypto because it doesn't really matter, because on the 7th of March, in about 2 days, we're going to have a massive crypto summit in the White House for the first time ever in history, or America's history, or the world's history. So it doesn't really matter they didn't mention, because we're going to have that instead. But they're laying in the foundation. They're trying to bring out the rules and regulations. They're dropping cases one by one. All of these are extremely bullish. Don't overlook them, because a lot of people right now are really distracted about the dips we're having inside the market space because of tariffs. Every time we have a tariff news come out, tariffs impact the market space minimum 24 hours. Always remember this. Maximum 48 hours. After that, we'll have some sort of other news inside the market space. So every time we have a tariff situation, a market dips, it's not because we're going into a bear market, it's just a dip. And the reason why we have sometimes drastic dips compared to normal dips is because we have so many institutions inside the crypto space and we don't have regulations. And when you don't have regulations inside of a market space with such a vast amount of capital coming into it, well, manipulation is very easy to create. The faster we get regulations, the less volatile the crypto market space will become, because then we'll see utility happening. When utility happens, it's very difficult to be able to manipulate crypto assets. Not saying manipulation won't be there, because it will. Manipulation will always exist. But then it'll be a lot more controlled rather than the Wild West. I said this a long time ago. The more institutions that enter the crypto space, expect a lot more money, but expect a lot more manipulation, especially in a market space with no rules. The longer we have no rules, the longer hedge funds can manipulate the market space, and they love doing that. And the longer institutions can manipulate the market space, or even banks can manipulate the market space as well. They're all in it for the money. But once we get regulations, it's difficult for them to manipulate it the way they do now, because then everything's regulated. But the foundation needs to be laid. And that is what the SEC, the CFTC, and the White House are doing. In their own words, they said, we're laying in the foundation. Because they said it's not just about regulations. It's about laying in the foundation to have the regulations on top, to have the innovation and growth to be able to happen. Something I said, a few days ago, a week ago, they're laying in the foundation. And now they mention it, they're laying in the foundation. Now, Coinbase is what we're going to be talking about next. But before we talk about Coinbase, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. I read everybody's comments one by one. I read out your name, and then I read out your comment, and I give you an answer. So if you do have a question, go for it. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. It was just speculation. I just wondered what you thought, how it will work, and adoption of crypto. It was just speculation. If it was just speculation, then we'll just leave it as speculation. But if they're going to, because they have to say how they're going to be using it. They have to say essentially how they're going to be using for what purpose, or where that speculation is coming from. Because they're all going to be used in terms of reserves of assets. Or they can be used to borrow against it, if that's what they essentially mean when it comes to reserves of assets. Or they're going to borrow against it, maybe. BTC will be used with layer 2 tech data think Miles. Interesting. Thank you for the update, Ian. What up, Miles? Christopher, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Great, let's go. Hi, how you doing, Pigeon? Yes, Miles, solid foundation are definitely needed, facts. Otherwise, what you are building will collapse. Yeah, I agree 100%. Are the regulations almost done behind the scenes, do you think? Like they are just tweaking it, or like how far do you think they will essentially they are behind in terms of the scenes? I personally think they're actually laying it from the ground up, because there was nothing for Trump's administration to come in and essentially continue building on. Gary Gensler did absolutely nothing for the crypto space. He did not pass any regulations. He always tried to force regulations that didn't even include digital assets when the regulation was, or the act was created, for example. So there was nothing for the Trump administration or the new CFTC or the new SEC or the new CFPB, OCC, or FDIC to work upon. There was no foundation. There was nothing for them to work and continue on to build that foundation for the crypto space, because Gary Gensler did nothing instead of stifling the crypto space. So they're genuinely working from the ground up. But in my point of view, they're working incredibly quick. The SEC on one side is dropping cases one by one. On the other side, they're doing essentially the foundation with the help of the CFTC and now the White House. So they're really trying to get things moving. Because if they weren't trying, and also you're saying this in any sort of a way, but if they weren't trying to get things moving, just for everyone out there, then it would just be the SEC trying to lay in the foundation by themselves. But you can see that they really do care when the White House, the SEC, and CFTC are coming together just for this one purpose. Because if they didn't care, it will take a very long time. It will just be the SEC working on them by themselves. I'm not saying you said this in any sort of way, but just for everybody out there. So realistically, this is going to take a long time then? No, not realistic. No, realistic, it wouldn't take a long time. Q3, we should have some regulations, some mentions of regulations and some removals of regulations. For example, today we're going to be talking about essentially how Congress voted to remove the IRS rule, which was essentially inside a DeFi space, you had to reveal your identity. So that rule was removed. Congress is also trying to remove rules that were hindering essentially growth and innovation inside the United States for cryptocurrencies. So one side they're trying to build rules, and the other side, Congress is trying to remove any rules that were hindering or stifling crypto assets. So it wouldn't take a long time, essentially, in any sort of a way. This year, a lot of things are going to be happening in terms of regulations and adoption utility. A lot of things are going to be happening this year. So not a long time in any sort of a way. Q3, we should have some foundation in. Q4, we should have a lot more foundation in. And with every step, we'll get more essential institutions joining and so on and so on. And then along the way, we're going to have the ETFs as well. But in general, the first 100 days, or essentially Q1 to Q3. So this is going to be a long time. Gensler was a heckler. Yeah, Gensler was definitely a heckler. Sorry, I'm late. Good to see you guys. Time to turn on my CMF TV for Facts News. Let's go, Carl. How you doing? That's a long time for me. Don't worry, Shelly. It's not a long time. Time flies by. Time flies by very quick. Now, I know if you blink, we're already in March, which is ridiculous how fast time is flying by. We're already in March. It felt like January was last week. Now, Coinbase. It's better to keep our assets like crap on Tangem or Zaman wallet. Tangem is better, but Zaman wallet is safe as well, in my point of view. Not financial advice in any sort of a way. Now, Coinbase. Coinbase is doing something interesting. Coinbase is going to be relaunching a major initiative that will be the first in cryptocurrency history. Coinbase is trying to do something that's never been done before, which is this. Coinbase is going to, its ambitions is to bring tokenized securities to the US markets, a move that could essentially redefine how traditional assets are traded on the blockchain. And the company's renowned move aligns with essentially the changing regulatory factors under the administration of President Donald Trump, who has recently signaled a more crypto-friendly stance. And a change in regulatory tone comes aimed at a series of impeachments and orders from the SEC, including a lawsuit filed by the regulator against Coinbase itself, which essentially has been dropped. So therefore, Coinbase sees a new opportunity with the pro-crypto, essentially SEC, to introduce essentially security tokens to American investors, a vision it first essentially pursued 5 years ago, but failed to deliver. So here's what they're going to do. Coinbase first hinted at its tokenized securities ambitions in 2020 S1 filings, in which it essentially explored the possibilities of launching its own security token. At Morgan Stanley's TMT conference, Coinbase Chief Financial Officer, Alicia, discussed the company's initial efforts to launch such a product. This is what she said. I now believe that our US regulators are looking for a product innovation that they want to move forward with. Many of you probably didn't read our first S1 filing back in 2020, but we tried to go public with a security token. We tried to take our own products public, but we couldn't, and we ran into walls. Coinbase initially attempted to launch a tokenized version of Coin stock. So Coin is the ticker for Coinbase on the stock market. And it turns out Coinbase wanted to launch their own coin on the stock market as a tokenized asset, but couldn't because Gary Gensler wouldn't go for it. So the stock essentially during the S1 process, but regulatory hurdles halted the move, and a source with knowledge of the matter said Coinbase is designing a crypto-specific version of the stock as the first major essential crypto company to go public. They said, we are evaluating a number of options to bring tokenization innovation to traditional financial assets, such as securities, and making them essentially more efficient and accessible to the source, essentially said. So Coinbase is about to be introducing, for the first time ever, tokenization into the traditional market space, starting with their own stock. And they're saying, because we tried to do this back in 2020, and we couldn't because nobody would go for it, and Gary Gensler was completely against us, instead, we're going to do it now. And with a pro-crypto SEC who's dropped our case, we shouldn't have any issues of a tokenized stock market. That will bring a tremendous amount of capital to the market space. Now, South Korea is what we're going to talk about next. Recently, I've talked about countries that are following America's footsteps in terms of their ETFs or their crypto reserves and so on, because that's what's going to be happening. Every step America takes on a positive path towards cryptocurrencies, innovation, growth, regulations, every other country around the world is going to be taking the exact same steps. And South Korea is the next one to take that step. South Korea inches closer to Bitcoin ETF decisions and other ETF decisions. It looks like essentially Japan is also doing the same. South Korea is growing closer to a decision on Bitcoin ETFs and other ETFs, according to a report from local publications coming out of South Korea. In its reports, the MK says the South Korean government is looking to essentially Japan, because they're doing the exact same thing. They're following America's footsteps, as the island's nation has been skeptical of digital assets in the past, but may be changing its tone. The Financial Supervisory essentially Service, South Korea's financial regulator, reportedly examined Japan's financial services and agency legislators' trend towards digital assets and shared it with related institutions in South Korea. Japan's Financial Services Agency was considering positioning crypto as a financial product alongside securities and might lift the ban on crypto ETFs in the country. Japan's Financial Services Agency was considering positioning other things as well regarding a ban, but they're thinking about removing it now. The discussion in Japan is expected to last through the first half of 2024, for the first half of 2025, before a legislative plan is drafted and submitted to the National Assembly in 2026. Kim So-young, vice chairman of South Korea's Financial Services Commission, reportedly said at a press conference after the virtual, essentially, asset committee, this is what he said: I have continued to say that I would carefully review spot Bitcoin ETFs and other ETFs, and it is similar in a broader context that there are countries that have not yet introduced it. And there are England, essentially, and Japan and America and so on that have. And they're bringing in a lot of capital for their countries. South Korea, where over 30% of citizens invest in crypto assets, has been seen a lot of political struggles after former essentially President Yoon Suk was arrested on January 15th, following an attempt to impose martial law in the country. Since then, the South Korean government has continued its crypto regulation efforts. On February 13th, the Financial Services Commission announced that charities and universities would be able to sell crypto donations starting the second half of 2025, and that the government has continued with enforcement actions as well. On January 16th, the exchanges, essentially Upbit, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the country, received a suspension notice for alleged Know Your Customer violations, and Upbit reportedly filed a lawsuit against South Korea's Financial Intelligence Unit to overturn the business sanctions. That's going to be happening as well, because South Korea cannot be going around suing like Gary Gensler did, because that ended very badly for the United States, and they fell behind to 11th place. And Singapore is right now ranking number 1 in terms of crypto innovation, in terms of regulations, with Hong Kong essentially in Dubai ranking in second. But that's amazing news regarding what South Korea is trying to do, because 30% of their citizens are already in crypto assets. Introducing ETFs is a great idea. Introducing regulations is even a better idea. And they're following the footsteps of Japan, the United States, and England, so on, which is a massive positive. Now, it's going to bring a lot of capital to the table. Every jurisdiction that gets involved more inside the crypto space in terms of regulations, the better it is. Because if the United States has a green light for regulations, and for example, South Korea has a green light for regulations, they can do payments internationally on the blockchain. So the more countries that come out with regulations faster and, you know, take a page out of the American book or the Trump's book in terms of moving along much more fast in terms of crypto innovation, the better it is, the more capital that we're flowing inside the market space. Because if America wants to do business inside the blockchain space, then obviously other countries around it must be, you know, in terms of regulation. So there's no more gray areas is what I'm trying to say. So they can conduct business. Now, what we're going to be talking about next, moving on from South Korea, Japan, England, and the US, what we're going to talk about next is the Fed. Because the highly anticipated Fed's beige book is released. And here is what you essentially need to know about it. The beige book document, which is published essentially periodically by the Fed and provides valuable information about the US economy, has finally been published. And here are the details that you must know about this document. Overall economic essentially activity has increased slightly since mid-January. Overall expectations for economic activity in the coming months are slightly optimistic. This will be an indication of, are we going to be having rate cuts or not? If we do have rate cuts, it's a positive. If we don't, negative. Prices increased modestly in most regions, although a few regions reported an acceleration in the pace of price growth compared with the previous reporting period. While most essentially contacts in the region expect the tariffs to lead to price increases, some individual reports suggest companies have already raised their prices. The residential real estate market is mixed, with the report noting continued stock constraints and a slight decline in construction activity for both residential and non-residential units. Some in the industry are also expressed concerns about the impact on tariffs on lumber and other material prices. Contacts in various regions said increasing uncertainty around migration and other issues was affecting current and future labor demands. While wages increased at a modest to moderate essentially pace, slightly lower than previous reports, several regions noted easing wage pressures. Many regions noted that the raising prices for eggs and other food ingredients were affecting food processors and restaurants. While consumer spending declined overall, demand for necessities remained strong, but price sensitivity essentially or items increased, particularly among lower income consumers. The report said at the same time, prices rose modestly, with some areas rising faster than previous periods. Unusual weather in some areas weakened demands in leisure, especially in leisure and hotel sectors, the Fed said. So, that is essentially the beige book that the Fed has just released now. And those were the bullet points of essentially what the Fed said in their beige book. That's going to be an indication for us of, are we going to be having rate cuts or not? And by the looks of it, yeah, we're going to have rate cuts. And rate cuts are a positive. It's an indication that a traditional economy is not doing too well, which means people will hedge against it using for alternative assets. Alternative assets can either be safe havens like gold, or they can be the crypto assets. Even though they're risk on, it's just an alternative. Now, Donald Trump is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about Donald Trump in terms of the crypto reserves, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see what's going on inside the comment section, and then we'll go straight into the next news, which is regarding Donald Trump and regarding crypto reserves. Let's see what's going on. Is it better to thanks, Miles. I'm still following you on X or Telegram when I can't be on YouTube. I invite everyone to have a look on your X and Telegram group. Amazing interactions. Thank you, Colin, for the kind words. Orphan says, what would be better, having a large percentage in reserves and XRP only because we know is behind them and we know for sure how many tokens are there, plus has utility and is American? Are you asking the question basis on the reserves? Is it better for America to have more XRP than any other asset in terms of reserves? Yes, by a mile. A lot of people would say, well, not a lot of people, the Bitcoin maxis will say, you know, Bitcoin is the asset to have for the reserve and no other asset matters. But at that point, nobody cares about the Bitcoin maxis. All I care about is a level playing field. However, XRP would be a better asset to have more of than compared to other assets inside the reserve. I'll be very honest, because the founder of Bitcoin still does have a tremendous amount of Bitcoin, which he can dump on the market space whenever he wants, depending on if it's a person or an agency, which raises so many questions. Because everybody talks about, oh, Ripple holds too much XRP, or this crypto project holds too much XRP, so on, all the legitimate crypto assets. But why don't the Bitcoin maxis ever talk about how the founder of Bitcoin holds a tremendous amount of Bitcoin? Just to give you a point of view of how much the founder of Bitcoin holds, the equivalent is the entire American institution. So every American institution that has launched an ETF, every American institution, so Fidelity, BlackRock, Grayscale, the list goes on. All of these institutions' portfolios in terms of Bitcoin ETFs put together adds up to what the founder of Bitcoin holds. So, and that doesn't raise questions for Bitcoin maxis. But Ripple holding XRP does. Even though Ripple is releasing the XRP bit by bit, and the Bitcoin founder is, well, holding on tight. But all the ETF portfolios from BlackRock, Fidelity, Grayscale, 21 Share, the list goes on. Every single one of those ETF portfolios put together adds up pretty much a little bit more than the Bitcoin founder. Together, those portfolios add up to the Bitcoin founder's portfolio. And that doesn't raise questions of the Bitcoin maxis. That an unknown person or an unknown government entity owns a tremendous amount of an asset they're all bragging about. But Ripple holds XRP, that's a big no. But the founder of Bitcoin holding a tremendous amount of Bitcoin, that's okay, apparently. It's just how Democratic politicians think, you know? You know, liberals and Democrats, the politicians, they're all delusional. Same goes with Bitcoin maxis. Every single one of those is delusional. Because anything that's about Bitcoin, positive. Anything else that's about any other crypto asset, even though it has similarities, that's a big no. Now, hi, Miles of CMF. Peg, good to see you. How you doing? Perfect time for the next news. Donald Trump. Donald Trump to share crypto reserve strategy at Crypto Summit. So, March 7th, big thing is happening inside the crypto, especially inside the White House. Massive crypto summit. 2 events are happening. One event inside the White House for the crypto summit on the 7th of March is going to be just with essentially government bodies. The CFTC, the SEC, the White House, and a few other government bodies talking about cryptocurrencies. The other event is going to be including crypto executives and CEOs and board members and so on. Now, some CEOs and board members might join the first party in terms of the SEC, CFTC, and so on, but the rest of them will be in the second event. Now, US President Donald Trump plans to share a detailed crypto reserve strategy at the upcoming White House summit on March 7th. The Commerce Secretary Howard Longton has said in a report that the president will discuss his vision for the cryptocurrency industry So if you're wondering to yourself why Trump didn't mention anything in Congress about crypto, don't worry. March 7th, White House Summit, crypto. It's all about crypto in the White House for the first time ever. Trump is going to tell the world, apparently from Howard, the Secretary of Essential Commerce, what his vision is for the cryptocurrency sector. He's going to say that from the White House, what his vision is for the cryptocurrency sector. Has said in a report that the president will discuss his vision for cryptocurrency industry. This includes a proposed plan for creating a crypto reserve, a broader regulatory plans for digital assets in the United States of America. The cryptocurrency reserve strategy is one of the most anticipated parts of Trump's address. Although details are very limited, and having a crypto reserve would represent a significant change in the United States' monetary policy, this move could make crypto essentially an important asset for federal government, similar to how countries keep their assets in terms of gold and other minerals. Furthermore, the strategy will include ways to incorporate crypto essentially into broader economic policies, providing a stable digital asset that can work alongside traditional financial systems. Trump also plans to present a broader regulatory plans for digital assets. You see how things are moving very fast? This includes rules for crypto exchanges, taxation, and anti-money laundering efforts. He aims to blend his previous economic essentially policies with advice from cryptocurrency experts. The White House Crypto Summit will host several important people. Strategy, for example, chairman and co-founder Michael Saylor has confirmed he will attend. Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey and Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong will also be there, along with other respected figures. Generally, the renowned hope for more favorable, essentially, crypto landscape in the US is building amongst, essentially, residents, and crypto enthusiasts expect a significant shift in cryptocurrency regulations. Greg, the global head of research at the New York Digital Investments Group, thinks otherwise. He has urged Americans to exercise caution, suggesting immediate changes to crypto policies could be crucial. Key officials still need to be named. Those who already selected require Senate confirmations, and those individuals must then assemble essentially their teams. And while essentially explaining the entire process, that will take time. Meanwhile, Trump's pro-crypto stance has also extended to other influential positions. Earlier this month, he nominated essentially Paul Atkins, a former essentially SEC commissioner known for his industry-friendly outlooks, to head the Securities and Exchange Commission. And this essentially move has been well received by essentially advocates who hope it will migrate the SEC's enforcement actions to come to a halt. As the Crypto Council prepares to take shape, Trump's administration appears poised to reshape the crypto landscape in the United States. That is incredible. Everything that's mentioned here, if it is what Trump is going to be mentioning in the crypto summit, and this is all coming out according to Howard, who is actually Trump's Commerce Secretary. So you could say it's a promising source because it's Trump's right-hand man that's coming out with this information of what is going to be discussed. He's going to be talking about what his vision is for the United States in terms of cryptocurrencies. Trump is going to talk about his vision of cryptocurrencies in the United States, which is incredible. I know it's going to be something excellent. It's Trump. If it is the things that's mentioned here, if he's going to be discussing things that's mentioned on this list, it's going to be incredible. It's all going to be positive. Because his speech last night was also incredible. Now, but you can genuinely see how fast they're working. Genuinely how fast they're working. SEC, CFTC, White House, Crypto Summit in the White House for the first time ever. He's going to be talking about his vision of what cryptocurrencies are going to be inside the United States, rules and regulations. So many things he's going to cover, which is incredible. And should give not just the American citizens, but everybody else around the world, and institutions and banks, a better perspective of what's to come inside a blockchain America. Which means that banks and institutions can start preparing themselves for what's to come next. Now, what we're going to talk about next is another country that's preparing itself for this digital future. Why? Because the US is preparing itself for this digital future. So just essentially 5 minutes ago, we were talking about South Korea, Japan, and England. And now we're going to talk about Vietnam, because they're also getting involved inside the crypto space. And the reason why is because they don't want to get left behind from the American market space going digital. Before we talk about that, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down to the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go to the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. Because I heard there will be a different percentage of holdings for every asset. And we know that the institutions are there. What is going to be hold in larger percentages? Is that essentially that's what you're basing on? Okay. I revealed 2 outcomes on yesterday's live, which was holding XRP for the United States, holding XRP, a tremendous amount of XRP. It's a great thing. But also the other perspective is XRP has to be used as a medium of payments. So if they hold a tremendous amount of XRP, that's excellent. And eventually they will be using or borrowing against using as collateral, so on. If they don't hold a tremendous amount of XRP, don't be disappointed, because the purpose of XRP is not to be standing still. The purpose of XRP is supposed to be used as a medium of payments. So when it gets reviewed in terms of percentages of what asset gets what indication of, 20% here, 30% there, 50% there, and so on. 2 outcomes. One outcome is a tremendous amount does go to XRP. That's probably the reason why XRP was mentioned first in terms of the crypto reserve. When Trump tweeted out on socials, on Truth Socials, he didn't tweet out essentially and say he's introducing a crypto reserve with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, and XRP. No, he said he's introducing a crypto reserve with XRP first mentioned, then Solana, then Cardano, and then later on a tweet came with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I said there's a reason why he mentioned it first. However, if he doesn't allocate, essentially, or if he's going for allocations, if he doesn't allocate too much towards XRP, don't be disappointed in any sort of way, because XRP is not supposed to stand still. It's supposed to be used as a medium of payments. So if he holds a tremendous amount, that's okay. Then we can see potential on the basis of they're going to use it in some sort of way or borrow against and use it as collateral some sort of a way. And the second outcome is essentially that it's not supposed to stand still. It's supposed to be used as a medium of payments. Bitcoin can stand still as much as it wants because that's the only thing it could do. XRP is supposed to be used as a medium of payments, and it cannot stand still in a reserve. So keep that on the facts. Now, keep that as an outcome. Sorry, I'm in and out of the live as I have duties to do. I will catch up properly tomorrow. No problem, Funky Brother. See you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Happy Pisces. Good to see you. Well, how you doing? How you been? Sorry, I'm late. How's everyone doing tonight? Scott, good to see you, well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Hello to my YouTube family. I love and respect each of you. Let's go, Scott. Miles, are you still bullish on Teleco? Difficult to buy it here in Ontario, Canada. Apparently have to go through MetaMask and buy Polymatic and flip it over. It's just a mess. On Teleco. Was I bullish on? Have I mentioned Teleco before? Miles, are you still bullish on Teleco? Very difficult to buy in Ontario, Canada. Apparently to go through MetaMask, Polymatic, buy difficult connections. Teleco? I mentioned Teleco before. If I did, it's not a must buy in any sort of a way. XRP, XLM, XDC is what you want to be sticking to. XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Cardano. Other than that, don't go too much out of the group of XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Cardano. Don't go too much out of that circle, and forget about Teleco. Genuinely, forget about Teleco. Now, not financial advice in any sort of way, Happy Pisces, but Telcoin. Yeah, I talked about it a long time ago. Even back then, I said it's not a must buy in any sort of a way. Even back then, yeah, I said it's not a must buy. I've always said must buy, stick to XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, and now Cardano. But yeah, it's not a must buy. Don't worry about it too much. Now, Vietnam. The Pilot Digital Currency Exchange reports every other country is trying to give a green light to crypto exchanges. Vietnam is trying to build their own crypto exchange. So here it is. Vietnam's Ministry of Finance is set to propose a legal framework for digital assets and cryptocurrencies this month as well. And part of this framework includes a pilot program for a state-licensed digital currency exchange, which is, it shows the level of commitment, I'll be very honest, because every country is trying to give licensings to Binance, Coinbase, Crypto.com, Kraken, and so on. And Vietnam just decided to bring out regulations this month and build their own crypto exchange. So, part of this framework includes a pilot program for a state-licensed digital cryptocurrency exchange. The Deputy Minister of Vietnam announced at the government press conference this. The move comes as Prime Minister Palm has urged regulators to establish clear guidelines for managing digital assets. The Ministry of Finance and the State Bank of Vietnam are working on a framework which aims to balance innovation with investor protection. Chai stated essentially that the proposed exchanges would allow individuals and businesses to trade digital assets under essentially state supervision, ensuring legal protections and reducing risk. Additionally, the government is exploring regulations to permit Vietnamese enterprises to issue virtual assets as a means of financial essentially mobilization. Vietnam currently lacks formal legal definitions for digital assets and cryptocurrencies, leading many essentially blockchain businesses to register abroad. The absence of clear regulations has resulted essentially in a lost tax revenue and limited domestic essentially market oversights. And according to Chainalysis, Vietnam saw $120 billion in digital asset inflows in 2023 and ranks among essentially the top 3 countries globally for essentially digital asset ownerships. With 21% of its population holding crypto, the proposed essentially regulatory framework aims to harness this growing sector while mitigating the risk. So, in an interesting turn of events, Vietnam is not only bringing out regulations for their entire country this month, just shows you the level of speed that Vietnam has going on, but they're also building their own crypto exchange, a government crypto exchange. So instead of Binance and so on operating in their country, why not build a government crypto exchange? And in their words, it's much more safer than any other external crypto exchange out there because there'll be less essentially volatility, there'll be less manipulation inside the crypto exchange, and so on. No more wash trades and so on. So, interesting one. I'll be very honest. Now, moving on essentially from Vietnam. Vietnam is going to bring a lot of capital to the table as well by doing that maneuver. And again, they're already doing this to essentially join the club when it comes to America become the capital of cryptocurrencies. Nobody wants to get left behind now. Because we talked about essentially South Korea, and then we talked about essentially Japan, and now Vietnam, and now we're going to talk about Russia. But before we talk about Russia, let's go start the comment section. First, as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down to the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go to the comment section first, and then we talk about essentially Russia next. Hello, Miles. I'm so late. My apologies. Lena, no problem. Good to see how you've been. Miles, why not mentioning about XLM as the ETF or whether it has a role in the reserves? In terms of XLM ETFs, they're going to be there. In terms of XLM inside of the reserve, the crypto reserve, it's also going to be there as well. In my point of view, the American crypto reserve is not going to be limited to the tokens mentioned. In my point of view, the American crypto reserve and the world, essentially any other countries getting involved in this, following America's footsteps, which they're all going to be doing and creating their own crypto reserves, it's not going to stop at, essentially XRP, Solana, Cardano, Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's not going to stop in that group. In my point of view, it's going to expand into other American-made, essentially, crypto companies as well. And XLM is on the list. American crypto companies is where Trump is putting his focus. So therefore, XLM is also on the list as well. And it's not going to stick to this limited group. It's going to grow and more tokens are going to get added to the list. Miles, do you have an opinion about Algo, Core, TIE, TON, Beam, and HOT. Okay, one by one. Algo, good. It has a good feature ahead of itself. Core, it's an okay feature ahead of itself. TIE, good feature ahead of itself. TON, excellent feature ahead of itself. Beam, it's a good feature itself inside the gaming sector. HOT, I believe HOT is going to do a surprise maneuver. Somewhere down the line, it's going to do a surprise maneuver. If one already owns Shiba and Doge, if you owned it, what would you do with these two? Keep them at this point. I'll be honest. I personally hold two. I've always said this as well. I said this a long time ago. I said if anybody ever wants to go into meme, if anybody ever wanted to dabble, just dabble. Not recommended in any sort of a way, but if anybody ever wanted to dabble with meme coins, I said the only ones that, in my point of view, will ever exist as time goes by, it's going to be Dogecoin, because Elon Musk will support Dogecoin for eternity. I said Shiba Inu will exist because their community got Shiba Inu a contract with a United Arab Emirates oil company, which is incredible that a meme coin community built on the chain got a contract like that. I said the third one is Lunacy. I said these are the new meme coins that, in my point of view, are going to exist under regulations moving forward and so on. Doge, Shiba, and Lunacy. So, in your case, Scott, if you're someone that holds Shiba and Doge, what should you do with them? At this point, keep them. See what happens. Now, Ministry of Finance in Russia launches an experimental cryptocurrency initiative. The Russian Finance Ministry is in talks with the central banks of Russia to allow a certain group of investors to trade cryptocurrencies under a controlled framework. According to TASS, the Director of Financial Policies, the Department of Ministry of Finance, Alexei, stated that these transactions will take place within a framework of the country's experimental legal system, EPR. So, the same way Vietnam is trying to create their own crypto exchange as a government crypto exchange, Russia is trying to create their own crypto exchange as well, a government crypto exchange. Only individuals classified as super qualified investors will be eligible to participate, explained essentially during the asset. Management market leaders form, however, essentially the criteria for this new category of investors are still being developed. We are investors, and essentially we are investors, and we are working on an experimental legal system to launch organized trading of digital currencies in Russia. This will be the super qualified investors for starting out, a new category that has not yet been determined and that we are defining, he said. He also expressed optimism that the initiative could be implemented in the near future, provided essentially three key conditions that are met: establishment of experimental system, identification of super qualified investors, and implementation of comprehensive risk control measures. Once these conditions are essentially met, the Ministry of Finance plans to submit detailed proposals to the government for approval. So, Vietnam creating their own controlled, essentially, government cryptocurrency exchange, Russia creating their own controlled government cryptocurrency exchange. Is this the start of countries moving away from traditional crypto exchanges? Because Vietnam is doing it, one thing, Russia is now doing it. Are we going to get more news essentially coming out? Possibility. The question will remain, who's going to use it? Because if you're using a crypto exchange developed by your jurisdictions, then it's going to be very difficult when it comes tax season to say you lost your crypto assets. Not saying you should do that in any sort of a way, and you should always abide by any tax rules in your jurisdictions. But it's going to be an awkward situation when tax season comes up and you've been using the government crypto exchange. And is that the reason why they're doing it? Tax purposes. Because if people start using government crypto exchanges, then the government knows every transaction you're making. And when it's tax season, They want that money. Because if you're using Binance or Coinbase and so on, they have to show some sort of privacy, but also reveal some information about you. But if it's government, they just know everything about you. And that would be a bad thing if every government starts doing that. But it will bring a lot of capital to the crypto space. So let's just see as time goes by. But it's good to see, essentially, governments or countries getting more involved inside the crypto space, even though it might be a controlled crypto exchange. Urgent Bitcoin supply is what we talk about next. BlackRock apparently made a comment that Bitcoin has 21 million tokens, which we all know about. But in their eyes, this is what they said. BlackRock's analysis, initially highlighted by Cointelegraph on X, paints a stark picture. With Bitcoin's inherently limited supply of 21 million coins, the math is quite simple, they said, and frankly, a bit alarming. Imagine this scenario. There are millions of millionaires in the United States alone, and Bitcoin's total supply is capped at 21 million coins. If each US millionaire decided they wanted just one Bitcoin, there simply wouldn't be enough Bitcoin to go around. This isn't just hypothetical. It's a realistic scenario that underscores the fundamental principle of Bitcoin scarcity. BlackRock, with its finger on the pulse of global investment trends, is essentially waving a red flag, alerting investors to potential for a significant supply-side squeeze on Bitcoin. Why focus especially essentially on millionaires? It boils down to purchasing power and investment trends. Millionaires represent a significant segment of the investment population with a substantial capital to deploy. Their investments and decisions can have considerable impact on the market dynamics. And here is why millionaire essentially Bitcoin demand is so crucial. Significant capital allocation. Millionaires have the financial means to invest substantial amounts in assets like Bitcoin without significantly impacting their overall wealth. Growing institutional interest. Millionaires often mirror institutional investment trends as institutions increasingly explore and adopt Bitcoin. Wealthy individuals are likely to follow suit. Desire for portfolio diversification. In an essentially era of economic uncertainty, millionaires are consistently seeking ways to diversify their portfolios beyond traditional assets, and Bitcoin, with its uncorrelated nature to traditional markets, becomes an attractive option. The fear of missing out. As Bitcoin price potential appreciates due to increased demand and limited supply, the fear of missing out essentially on potential gains could drive more millionaires to acquire Bitcoin. This conflux essentially of factors suggests that Bitcoin's demand from high net worth individuals could surge, further exacerbating the supply crunch. Just want to point out a few things. This is the propaganda that essentially Bitcoin maxis create on the news. First of all, BlackRock never stated any of these things. Just want to point this out. And when they essentially talked about this is the propaganda that's genuinely spread by Bitcoin maxis. In an era of economic uncertainties, millionaires are consistently seeking ways to diversify their portfolios beyond traditional assets. I agree. But then it goes on to say, Bitcoin, with its uncorrelated nature to traditional markets, Bitcoin follows the traditional markets due to the amount of ETFs in Bitcoin from institutions like BlackRock. So that's a big, bold lie right there from Bitcoin maxis. The second bold lie, how BlackRock said essentially there is 21 million tokens, and therefore Bitcoin's limited supply is amazing, and that people should really think about it. 21 million tokens, when it's gone, it's gone. Well, BlackRock also created a TV advert about their Bitcoin ETFs, which at the bottom of their TV advert said, "We cannot guarantee that the supply of Bitcoin will be capped at 21 million tokens," is what it said at the bottom of the advert from BlackRock. So just wanted to point those things out for the Bitcoin maxis. Stop spreading lies and stop saying BlackRock said this and BlackRock said that about Bitcoin. In reality, it didn't. Not once did BlackRock say essentially that is essentially Bitcoin does not follow the natural market space. Yes, it does. BlackRock follows the stock market. And also, on the basis of 21 million tokens, in BlackRock's words, it can be increased. Now, moving on from the propaganda article that essentially Bitcoin maxis like to spread around to urgent Bitcoin supply warnings, essentially. Sorry, not to this, to Ripple. So moving on from Ripple, as in moving on from Bitcoin and BlackRock to, or propaganda, to Ripple news, to XRP news. Also, just want to point out one thing. In no sort of a way, I'm not a Bitcoin hater or some crypto hater for some crypto assets. Not in any sort of a way. But when I see misinformation or propaganda, I like to point it out. So not in any sort of a way I'm a Bitcoin hater or any crypto asset hater. Sure, I dislike using some crypto assets due to the frustration they've given me in the past. For example, Solana. I've tried so many attempts to send payments on Solana or buy things on Solana's chain, and the payment never processed. So things like that frustrated me, and I like to point them out. But in no sort of a way, I'm in any sort of a way, I'm a hater towards Bitcoin and sort of assets. But I just like to point out the obvious, that Bitcoin maxis always like to look ahead and not mention. So if I ever see anything wrong, I want to point it out. I don't want to follow the crowd and say Bitcoin is excellent, the Bitcoin is great, and there's nothing wrong with it, because there is. It's slow, congested, and that limited supply, well, according to one massive institutional source, it can increase, and they can't guarantee to their clients. So just want to point that out, that not sort of any sort of a hater towards any crypto assets, but I like to point out the facts of the matter always. Now, Ripple. Expanding essentially digital asset adoption across the EU. The recently announced partnership between Ripple and their recent essential partnerships in Portugal and Brazil. Ripple's first Portugal essentially partnership will provide faster and cheaper and more transparent payments and corridors for Brazil. Now, what I'm reading to you now is what Ripple has released on their own website, essentially today. Ripple released something on their own website talking about their partnerships with Latin American countries and EU. And they talked about CBDCs. A lot of people are pointing out that essentially Ripple is moving away from CBDCs and they're no longer involved. That is also a big lie. Ripple has not moved away from CBDCs. That is their core when it comes to medium of payments. But they also have tokenization, stablecoins, and so many other things on board as well. So here it is. Ripple's first in Portugal will provide a faster, cheaper, more transparent payment corridor with Brazil. The latest milestone is a part of Ripple's growing momentum in Europe as the region capitalizes on the implementation of markets in crypto assets. So as we know, Europe has the MiCA, essentially rules and regulations, and that crypto assets can thrive in if they have licensings and can't, for example, USDT. And it's increasing importance to expand its adoptions of digital asset services. While the partnership marks the introduction of Ripple payments into Portugal, it's only the latest example of Ripple's growing presence in Europe. Ripple just wanted to point out today on their own website that they're achieving incredible things, and there's a lot of things in progress. So here they are. Ripple's custody partnerships with the European-based banks like DZ Banks, BBVA, Switzerland, the addition of Societe Generale's new stablecoin to the XRP ledger, and Ripple's recently opened office in Geneva are just a few of the company's European milestones from the past year. It's evident that the blockchain and digital assets are transforming financial services, and the growing adoption rates coupled with the rapid pace of innovation has finance leaders eager to implement their own digital asset strategies. A week following the partnership's announcements, Ripple and the PwC brought regional business leaders, including their recent Portugal partner, together in Lisbon to discuss key blockchain use cases, including crypto-enabled payments. digital asset custody and tokenization of real-world assets. The event in essentially Portugal offered attendees an opportunity to network with leading blockchain experts, fintech essentially innovators, and industry peers to explore how collaboration can accelerate Portugal's rapidly evolving digital landscape. The importance of the European market to future of digital assets is due in large part to growing interest and essentially commitments from business leaders across the region. According to Ripple, according to Ripple's latest new value report, more than 90% of the global finance leaders believe blockchain will have a significant impact on finance and business, with 89% of European leaders indicating openness to adopting crypto, stablecoins, or even central bank digital currencies. Because a lot of people are saying Ripple is not mentioning CBDCs on their essentially website. They're trying to move away from CBDCs, and in reality, they're not. CBDCs still exist. And Ripple is the king of CBDCs. Let's just be essentially frankly honest with ourselves. They are the king of CBDCs. They are the king of medium of payments as well. During essentially drilling down into specific use cases, 41% of European leaders surveyed said that they plan to use crypto for cross-border payments. Another key to Europe's appeal is the maturing digital asset regulatory framework that has made it easier to do business across the region. The MICA is now fully in effect, providing legal clarity and harmonizing rules in the EU so that businesses can gain full access to the block by becoming authorized in any way of its own 27 European member states. The guidelines essentially also touch on stablecoin issuance, tokenizations, and more, serving as a powerful blueprint for encouraging innovation through regulation. The partnership between the new Portugal essentially firm and Ripple will further strengthen Ripple's global payment networks, which already spans more than 90 payout markets, representing essentially more than 90% of daily FX markets. Having processed more than $70 billion in volume, Ripple Payments is supported by companies' deep expertise in both finance and in the digital asset space. With more than 60 essentially global regulatory licensings, Ripple secures and compliant digital asset infrastructure, provides everything businesses and financial providers need to engage in the digital asset economy or ecosystem. From streamlined global payments and crypto on and off ramps powered by RLUSD to real-world asset custody and tokenization of real-world assets. So that is what Ripple essentially released on their own website today, talking about their achievements in the past year and this year, talking about how much licenses they have, talking about how much 90% of the FX markets is on Ripple's network, which lost for words is what I would say. 90% of FX markets on Ripple payments, that's incredible. And in terms of the stats they went through, like 90% of the global finance leaders believe blockchain will have significant essentially impact on finance and businesses, with 89% of European leaders indicating openness to essentially crypto, stablecoins, or CBDCs even. Well, it shows you the world is definitely ready for the blockchain space without a doubt. And Ripple's essentially conducted many study tests, many essentially reports to get this to get to these key figures of, in terms of the European leaders, where they stand, in terms of the European countries, where they stand, or in terms of Latin American countries, where they also stand as well. And everybody's in favor of crypto, everybody's in favor of digital payments, and everybody seems like is still in favor of essentially CBDCs in the EU especially. And regarding Society General's new stablecoin to the XRP ledger, which is even more incredible. On that note of Ripple's achievements and what Ripple is going to be achieving further moving forward, we have reached the endings of tonight's live. All good things must come to an end, which they have now. So If you tuned in late, the gist of what we talked about on tonight's live, we talked about essentially Ripple payments. We talked about their expansion inside the EU and the US. We talked about essentially on tonight's live regarding the matters of the BlackRock essentially and Bitcoin maneuver. We talked about essentially the urgent supplies essentially. And we talked about the Ministry of Finance with Russia in terms of crypto assets. We talked about Vietnam in terms of crypto assets. We talked about on tonight's live regarding Donald Trump sharing his vision on March 7th about the crypto space. We talked about essentially the highly anticipated Fed beige book that came out on tonight as well. We talked about essentially South Korea on tonight's live regarding Japan, South Korea, England, and the United States. We also went through news regarding Coinbase introducing tokenization to the stock market is what they're aiming for next, and introducing it first with their own ticker, Coin. We talked about the SEC and the White House coming together. We talked about the SEC, CFTC, and the White House coming together only for establishing rules and regulations for the crypto space. And we talked about Trump, tariffs, Mexico, and Canada on tonight's live. So, all good things must come to an end, which they have now. This was episode 274 of the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever and you're wondering who am I and what is this is the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family, and my name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles, and I'm hosting the live you're watching right now. You can tune this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards, where I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding how the world is transforming into this digital space. And I always try to break down and simplify everything as much as I can so everybody has a better understanding. And we do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I will always essentially be there to help you out and have a better understanding inside the crypto space. So this was episode 274. If you haven't already, like, comment, retweet, share, and also thank you so much to everybody who followed me, who subscribed to me during this live on YouTube. If you subscribed, thank you so much. If you followed me on X during this live, thank you so much as well. Welcome to the CMF family. We also have our own X communities page, Crypto Miles Family Lounge, which anybody's more than welcome to join, completely free. We have a Telegram group that's also completely free as well. And this live is free. Tune into Monday to Friday. So tune in for episode 275 tomorrow. Now, before we do go, obviously, let's go to the comment section first because I don't want to miss out on anybody's comments. Let's see what's going on there. Miles says, sorry, I meant Toncoin, not Telecoin. Glad one of the family just mentioned it. Toncoin. Okay, Ton, excellent. It's an excellent project, Ton. I was thinking to myself, I wonder whether you mean Ton. Yes, Miles, bullish on Ton. Yes, I'm very bullish on Ton. That's correct, Shelly. And yeah, happy Pisces, I'm very bullish on Ton. Great to hear that Forex is not going to die in 2026. As long as the banks exit then, there is definitely need for XRP. Yes, facts. Let's go, Thomason. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Thank you for a great live and all the news. JPC tomorrow, same time as usual. MT Cox just moved 1 billion in BTC. That means they're getting ready for a payout, maybe. Thank you for the update, Shelly. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thank you and see you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow, same time as usual, brother. Thanks, Legend. Night and day, CMF. Shelly, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, Ian. Same time as usual. Would I be right in thinking that the usual altcoin bull run is over and the utility bull run is about to begin? Yes. 100%. You're on the right path. Great live, as always. Take care, Miles and CMF. Also like, share, and leave a comment afterwards. Peace out. Let's go, Ray. That's pretty much the second bull run, the institutional bull run that I talked about. Part 2. Thank you, Miles, and good night. Oh, Lena, let's go. See you tomorrow, same as usual as well. Thanks, Miles, and have a great night. Let's go, Stormy. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Switch to YouTube. You were frozen on X. No problem. Pisces. Thank you, Miles. Pierce, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Happy Pisces. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. And Ton is an excellent project, but if you can't get your hands on it, it's okay. Stick to XRP, XLM, XDC, and H4. And Cardano, why not? Great live as always. Good night, Miles. See you same time tomorrow. Artistic. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great show as always. Let's go, Suze. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles. Callie, let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Night, Miles, and everyone. Great live as usual. We all appreciate your time. Share with us. Let's go, Joe, and see you tomorrow, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. If you haven't already, like, comment, share, retweet CMF members. If you haven't already, like, comment, share, retweet, and like each other's comments on X. If you're watching us on YouTube, like also, and comment if you want outside the live as well. Subscribe, follow, and tune in for tomorrow's episode 275, which is incredible that we're episode 275 right now for tomorrow. See everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. We'll just subscribe and follow and turn on the bell notification so you know when I go live. See everybody tomorrow.